Forgot the microphone. Can you believe that? Hey, Teacher Kelly Meg, did you see that? I forgot the microphone. I caught myself completely off guard right there. I wasn't even paying attention to what I was doing. Hey, Sarah, good to see you. 1976. That was a great year. It's like 4 years after I was born. So it's really good to see everybody. When was the last time that you actually felt done at the end of the day? And when I say that, I don't mean caught up. I don't mean finished with everything that was on your list. I don't mean that you're ahead for tomorrow. I mean done. Most teachers that I talk to, and I really do mean most, when I talk to them about this, they do not feel like they're done at the end of the day. What they actually feel like is they feel like they've been put on pause. And it's like they're caught up in a video that never actually comes to an end. And they're just waiting for the moment that they can press play again. But the problem with a paused video, as many of you know, is when you try to restart a paused video, it doesn't exactly start right away. It kind of glitches and sometimes it gets stuck and then it takes off. And so if you can understand what I'm talking about, and if that's you, then I want you to stay with me because what I'm going to share with you tonight. First of all, I want you to know it's not another productivity tip. It's not a time management system. And it's not me telling you that you have to work harder, that you have to wake up earlier, or that you have to stay later. What I'm going to show you tonight in this video is how to discover the power of enough. And I want to tell you up front that I'm not sharing this with you, just willy nilly or just off the cuff. This is something that comes directly from experience. It comes directly from actual classroom time. I want to share with you the power of enough. And I want you to know it's not abstract theory, it's practical, it's something that you can actually see and it's something that you can actually use starting tonight. But before we get into that, I just want to point out that I spent nearly 2 decades in education, and I have watched some of the world's talented or some of the world's most talented teachers, deeply called teachers, and incredibly committed teachers. I have watched them slowly burn out. And here's the thing, this is what gets me. It's not because they didn't care enough. It's not because they weren't working hard enough. It's not because they weren't dedicated enough. The reason why teachers burn out, at least many, is because nobody ever told them where the finish line was. Nobody ever told them about the power of enough. So let's talk about the real problem. Because if we don't diagnose the problem correctly, we'll keep trying to solve a problem and it's the wrong problem. So stay with me till the end because I have a little something I want to make sure you have the opportunity to get. It's already over there in the chat and it's going to make life much better for you. I appreciate y'all being here. Jump over here to the group. First of all, Sarah Ann 1776, Teacher Kelly, good to see ya. Golly, I got these brand new glasses and I can hardly see. Miss Martin Muse, thank you for the super chat. Just a couple of things while we're waiting for most people. Hey, Scorpio, are you back on from your trip? I hope you had a good time. I hope it was very refreshful for you. I hope everybody's doing well. So last week we took the Sunday off, and I got to tell you the power of time off. Golly, it was so good. I didn't do a lot of content stuff. I didn't do any live. I didn't send out a newsletter last week. I had already posted ahead on the podcast. By the way, if you don't know, we're podcast on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeart. So you can catch us over there too if you choose. And I didn't do any of that work. I was way ahead, and I just took time off. We had like 2 days off because of the end of the 9 weeks, and we had a teacher work day. And so my wife and I, we went over to Jacksonville and we went to the Players Championship. Probably not many golf fans in here, but if you are a golf fan, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. We was able to sit out there. We sit on the famous 17th green. That's an island green. We got to walk across that beautiful golf course and see all the great landscape and architecture across there and just spend time away. And I got to tell you, there is nothing like a little bit of time off right? And I wonder what would it be like? What would it be like as teachers if we regularly scheduled time away, where not just that we cut down on all the stuff that we do at school, not that we just get rid of all the education stuff because we absolutely ought to do that, but what if we just kind of suspended life for a few days and we didn't worry about all the things that were going on, all the things that we need to do, the stuff that we need feel like we need to stay on top of? What would life be like if we were able to do that? And I got to tell you, I think life would be a whole lot easier because let me tell you what, I feel a whole lot better, right? As it relates to my mental acuity, my emotional acuity, my physical strength. I feel a lot better. Got a lot of my creativity is a lot better. I can think quite a bit clearly. And the good news is, got much closer with my wife. Got to spend time with her, and we got to see the world's best golfers hit the ball in the water, which is something I can do if I go to play golf. Scorpio, super glad that your trip was good. Super glad. I appreciate that. All right, before we jump on, just a few reminders here. I think I got them up here. All of our free stuff is down in the description box, or you can get it right there on the screen at the QR code. I want to encourage you to do that. We have had, I don't know, we have had, it seems like thousands and thousands of downloads, and we're helping hopefully thousands of teachers. If you're brand new here tonight, make sure you let us know about that. Also, drop us a comment down in the description box. Tell us who you are, what your grade level is, what your content area is. And if you don't mind, tell us where you're watching from because I love to know where it is that we're reaching people. The Europeans are way ahead of us when it comes to life work balance. You know what? It seems like that I may have heard that. It seems like that they are. I'm going to put that up there on the screen right quick. The Europeans are way ahead of us when it comes to life work balance. I think a lot of countries are way ahead of us whenever it comes to life work balance because I really believe that as Americans, we have bought fully into like the hustle culture and having to get out here and get all this stuff done and making as much as we can and being able to accomplish all these things, which I guess is, I guess is okay, but are those things worth our health? Are they worth, you know, um, what it does to our family? Is it worth, building a great career? Is a great career worth the sacrifices that we have to make? Sarah Ann's from New York. Hey, if I recall right, you're in upstate New York, right? Um, I had a teacher that used to work for us here years ago. She was from upstate New York. Probably the best teacher that I ever met, maybe in my entire life. I was also in the military many years ago with a guy. He was from upstate New York, and I remember he got out of the military, and then got in a horrible farm accident, and he didn't lose his life, but he did lose his ability to walk. So I've always thought about upstate New York because of those two people. So most teachers don't work just one job. They're working from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and then they go home and they have to work from the time that they get home, some of them, till the time that they go to bed. As you all know, because you're teachers, we're upgrading. There's emails, there's lesson prep, there's parent communication, there's just one more thing. And that one more thing seems to somehow turn into another hour and a half worth of stuff. And eventually, when you get to sit down at night, you think, I'm just going to catch up. I'm just going to do a little bit. But you never do. And here's why. Because when there's no clear finish line, your work will never end because you do not know when enough is enough. Now, I want you to think about that for just a minute. If nobody ever told you where the finish line was or what the finish line looks like, how would you ever know if you have done enough? Because you can't reach a destination that has not been defined. And what happens is when you don't know where the finish line is, you do what any other reasonable person would do. You begin to work harder. You begin to work later. You begin to get up earlier. You tell yourself that this weekend I'm going to catch up, and this weekend I'm going to head. I'm going to get ahead. And then the weekend comes and it doesn't happen. And so we turn around and then we come to Sunday evening. And then we get what's called the Sunday scaries. If you know what the Sunday scaries are, go ahead and drop us a comment and tell us your experience with them. But the Sunday scaries is that low grade feeling that you get in your chest, the feeling of dread that lays heavy on your chest and also in your stomach because you're thinking about all the things that you got to do tomorrow. I want you to know that's not a character flaw. That's not laziness. That is what happens to any human being who runs a race without a finish line. You can't work without knowing where the finish line is. Now, here's what the scripture says. As you know, we are a faith-forward organization, and our core verse comes from Proverbs chapter 4, verse number 23, that says, above all else, guard your heart, for from it flows everything in your life. Or above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Everything flows from your heart. Your patience with your students flows from your heart. Your creativity in the classroom flows from your heart. Your presence at home with your family flows from your heart. And when your work never ends, the mind never gets settled. And when your mind never gets settled and never gets to rest, your heart does not get to rest. And when I say your heart, I don't mean your muscle. I mean the person that you are, the core central being of whoever you are. And when your heart runs on empty, everything you do flows from a place of emptiness. And so this is not just a workload problem. This is a heart problem. And I have a feeling that some of that's some of that's beginning to hit home for some of you. I can tell you that 4 years ago, that hit home for me in the hardest of ways. Because I woke up and my face was paralyzed. I thought I had a stroke. My wife thought I had a stroke. The kids at school thought I had a stroke. I'll never forget that. They would come up to me and say, Miller, what happened to you, Miller? Did you have a stroke, Miller, because you can't move your face? And I'm like, no, I didn't have a stroke. But I'll tell you what my doctor did say to me. He told me, he says, John, he says, if you don't do something about your stress is going to do something about you. We have to get a hold of what's going on in our life. Many of us don't have boundaries. We have a hard time setting boundaries. And when we do set boundaries, they're very difficult to keep. And here's the reason why. Because as soon as you set a boundary, the boundary gets challenged. Sometimes it's going to get challenged with being asked to do extra stuff at work. Sometimes it's going to get challenged because you want to stay late and you know you need to go home, but you feel like you got all these things to do. And we don't feel like we can actually have boundaries. And that's why I created a resource for you. It's called Reclaim Your Limits. You can get it right there at the QR code, or it's down in the description boxes. As a matter of fact, there's all kinds of free stuff. If you go down the description box, you'll see it. It says all the free stuff talked about in this video. You can get it right there. So jump down there and make sure you grab the free stuff or get it there at the QR code, wherever it is that you want to get it. And get some things going on that'll help protect you right there. So, who we got here? Oh man, I cannot see. This is so true. I appreciate that. I got these brand new glasses. I couldn't see. I couldn't see to begin with, and then I got these glasses, and I can't see any better. So I appreciate that. Hey, one for him. Good to see you. Good to see you from Colorado. I am wondering, has the weather improved out there at all? It is close to 90 here now every day in Florida, and it'll be 90 all the way, hopefully, till December, and we won't have any more cold weather there. Good to see you again, one for him. All right, there it is, spending hours on Sunday night doing lesson plans. That's the life of a teacher right there, right? When you don't know where the boundaries are, when you don't know how much is enough, that is exactly what happens. Sometimes there may be consequences for setting boundaries. I think that that is a wonderful thought because you're absolutely right. There will be consequences because you have to think about this. Whenever you set a boundary, if you say no to something, right? That means you get to say yes to something else. But if you say yes to something over here, that means you have to say no to other things. And there are consequences, especially as a teacher. There may be consequences that we deal with that come from our admin because when we set a boundary and we no longer give in to the unpaid overtime and doing all the free work, sometimes we're looked at as not being a team player or we're looked at as being lazy. I can tell you, I think that we need to be willing to take those names because at the end of the day, it's your health, it's your well being. And as far as I can tell, after almost 2 decades in education, as quickly as you get sick and you can't come to work anymore, they'll start and they'll go find somebody else to take your place. And the only one that's hurt because of that is you. It's us at the end of the day. So my thoughts are, yes, there are consequences. And so we have to measure those out and figure out how high of a level of consequence we're willing to deal with. But I got to tell you, I have a pretty high threshold, just speaking for myself. There it is. Very warm here. You haven't had much of a winter. Holy cow. Let me tell you about the winter in Florida. All right. And I know that these numbers are not going to be too scary, especially for those that are in here from New York and from other places. But we spent about 3 weeks in the 40s during the day. Yeah. And like 27 and 28 at night. Do you know how cold that is in Florida? I thought I was going to have hypothermia in my house. I had to go buy two of those little heaters just to keep my house warm. I have a brand new, well, it's not brand new. It's only 5 years old. My house is 5 years old. And I had to go buy two of those little heaters just so I could stay warm in my house. That's how cold it was in Florida. It was awful. I don't ever want to have another winter like this. Now, once you see the next question, once you see what's actually causing this, because most teachers think they already know the answer, and I don't think they do. Because when teachers come to me, and I get the privilege of talking to thousands of teachers, hundreds of teachers a week. When teachers come to me, and I describe everything I just talked about, the first thing that they think is that they think they have to get better at managing their time, that they have to get and become a better planner, or they need to become more organized. And I want you to know, I'm not knocking those things down because all of those things are good traits of good workers. But what I want to say, and I want you to hear this as clearly, or what I want to say, and I want to communicate this as clearly as I possibly can. The issues that we are facing as teachers, they're not time management problems. It is a boundary problem. The problem is not your effort. The problem is not your ability to manage your time. The problem is your boundary, or more accurately, the complete absence of boundaries. And so here's what's actually happening every single day inside our brains. We go in, we sit down at work, we've got 25 things on our to-do list, and our brain is doing something in the background. It's running like these apps, like our phone. We're looking at one app, but there's all these other apps working in the background. And the entire time, it's shooting questions through our brain. Questions like, should I stop? Is this enough? Can I stop now? Or should I do one more thing? And every single minute those questions are running It is creating a problem for us mentally. Psychologists call this decision fatigue. Every decision, even micro decisions of should I keep going or should I stop or should I do this, it costs energy. It drains energy from your brain and from your body. And when you do not have a defined stopping point, your brain never gets to stop taking action and stop making decisions. Even if you go home, even if you sit on the couch, and even if you doom scroll, if you bring home work in your brain thinking about all the things that took place during the day, you are not recovering and you are not resting. And here's the other thing. The reason why we continue to do that is because of guilt. The moment that we oftentimes try to stop, we try to draw limits or we try to set boundaries, we begin to feel guilty. And we begin to think something like, I should be grading now, or other teachers are doing a lot better than I am. Everybody else is okay. My students are going to suffer if I don't finish this tonight. And none of those things are true. That voice, the guilt that we deal with, it's lying to us and we believe it. And it's not wisdom. The voice that you hear, that we hear, is the sound of a system that never gave us permission to stop. And so now, all on your own, the system, meaning the education system, has so trained us that the brain is enforcing the rule of the system on us, even while we're not there. The truth is, you're not failing. Teachers aren't failing. But we are working in a system that is designed in such a way to where the individual, you can't win because you can't find the finish line. And that right there is the reason why. That's the reason why I created the power of enough. Because understanding this is extraordinarily important. But understanding it is not the same as having a way to actually change it. And so I want to just engage just a little bit here with our community. And I just wonder, what does the guilt voice say to you? Does anybody else struggle with that? Or is it just me? Or did I just completely make that whole thing up? Does anybody else here struggle with the guilt voice? Oh, Teacher Kelly, yes, that is like super cold in Florida. It's ridiculously cold in Florida, but I understand that you still have no sympathy for me because wherever it is that you are, I guarantee if you were in the single digits, it's very cold. 40s is pretty nice for us in Colorado. It's terrible in Florida, I can tell you that. Hey, Jessica, how can I help you? If I can do something for you, I sure will. Right here in the chat box, I hope I still have it. I'm going to put it up. Well, I lost it. Let's see if I can get it in there. Right there in the chat box. All right, this is how you can access the power of enough. Right there, the link is there. It's also down in the description box. Believe it or not, you can also access it here. All of our free products are right here. Please go grab those. And use those. And I'm telling you, they're very practical and they're very helpful. I think we've given away thousands of them. I don't even know how much. I don't even know how many products we've given away. And we want to start now with the power of enough. It's right there in the chat box. You can get it there. It's also down in the description. You can also access it through this QR code because once you go to my website, the store is right there, and you can get all those things. So jump in there and grab those. Let's see what was the question there. So we'll see what's going on. Jessica Murphy wanted me to do something for her, but I think maybe she got to go. You hope to move to Florida. I hope to move to Florida one day so I'll know what you're talking about. Yes, okay. Teacher Kelly got a math job. I think this year, maybe two, maybe two. I think we have a social studies position as well. So maybe you could jump down here this year. It's a lot. I don't know where you live, but I can say that Florida, with the exception of gas, is a whole lot cheaper. The reason why gas is high in Florida is because we don't have a state sales, we don't have a state income tax. So, whatever, they don't take out any income tax out of our check for Florida. But they make it up at the grocery store and at the gas pump. So go figure on that one, right? So if the problem isn't time, if that's not the problem, what is the problem that causes a lack of boundary? And then the question becomes, what do we do instead? So maybe we can start with a little bit of a different question than maybe what you've been asking yourself. Maybe you've been asking yourself, how do I get everything done? And that's a really good question as a teacher, because we have an unbelievable amount of work that has to get done. But what if that's the wrong question? What if instead of asking, how do I finish everything, we started asking, what would be enough for today? Because here's the one question. Because here's the thing about that question. When you ask, how do I finish everything? There's always more work to do. It has become my experience as a teacher that it is impossible to get everything done. That there's never a time when all the work is done. It's always there. But when you ask, what would be enough for today? Suddenly the game kind of changes, and there is a way that you can win at the game. And I want to give you a definition of enough. And it's probably different than what you're thinking. Because enough is about doing less. Enough is about doing what's necessary, what is meaningful, and what is sustainable. If what you're doing, if the things that you're doing throughout the day, if they fit into those three categories, then you are going to do enough. If it does not fit into those three categories, then it can simply wait, or you can discard it. It's kind of like the way, unfortunately, the way that I clean out my garage, or my shop. I have all kinds of stuff out in my shop, things accumulate, and I'll sit there and I'll look at it for the longest of time. But then there eventually comes a time I look at it and I say, you know what, I'm not doing anything with that, so I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm going to get it out of my way. Well, that's exactly what some things need. That's exactly what we need to do with some things as teachers. There are some things that we're doing that do not profit us anything. We do them out of habit, or we do them because somebody told us that we needed to do it, or we do them because we think that that's what a good teacher does. But if they're not necessary, meaningful, and sustainable, then they got to get gone. That's not laziness. That's wisdom. That's not giving up on your students. It's guarding your heart so that you can give the best of you to your students. Not because everything's done, but because you know with clarity that you did enough. That's the power of enough, is it brings clarity to the individual. That's not a fantasy. That is a decision. And it's a decision that you can start making tomorrow morning when you walk into the classroom. You don't have to wait. Now, here's the thing. If this idea is already giving you some language to a few things, something you've been feeling for a long time, because I've talked to enough teachers to where I feel like that I kind of sometimes can communicate what other people are feeling. And if that's the case right here, that's exactly why I created the product that I created. Because most teachers, we do not need more pressure. What we need is a clear and repeatable finish line. So Teacher Kelly says, it'll be a few years until I can get there, not until my kids graduate from college. Holy cow, I understand that feeling. You know, my youngest son, he's out of college. My middle son, he went to Florida State, and my daughter, she works over at the VA. But my youngest son, he went to Kansas and played football. So you can imagine, isn't it interesting? Yeah. Now just think about this. My son, All-American football player, played in a national All-American football game, went to Kansas, played football, got a $30,000 a year scholarship, right? $30,000 a year scholarship, and was still going to owe over $18,000 a year to be on the campus of that college. Is that not ridiculous? How in the world, other than going into debt, are people paying for college? That is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard in my entire life. So let me show you 5 shifts that you can make. These are mindset shifts. And they begin to move you out of that constant feeling of being behind. And I want to be very clear before I go through these. I'm not going to walk you through the full system, because the difference between hearing these and actually applying them is where most teachers get stuck. You can hear these every day of the week, but that doesn't enable you to apply them. That's what the Power of Enough guide workbook does. That's what it's designed to do. But I want you to see these shifts, because once you see them, you can't unsee them. The very first shift that we have to make is we have to stop letting our day decide what matters. And we start to decide ahead of time what matters. Most teachers don't realize how much of their day is reactive. Things come at you and you respond. Then something else comes at you and you respond again. And by the end of the day, you've been so busy the entire time, but you're not always sure that you actually accomplished anything. Nothing actually went forward. Nothing actually mattered. And this shift change, it moves you from reacting to deciding. It's kind of like building a matrix. And whatever fits inside the matrix, that's what we're going to focus on. And we're not going to be drawn away by distractions. And I know that sometimes that is impossible. But when we cut those down, those distractions, we begin to interrupt the pattern of decision fatigue and the damage that it does to us as teachers. Shift number 2 is create a hard stop, an actual stopping point for your day. Most of us have a vague idea. It's not when everything's done, but define a real boundary and say, this is what I'm going to do. This is my starting point. This is my ending point. And that's where things are going to begin to feel uncomfortable, because that is the hardest part. I talk to teachers every single day, and every single teacher almost always says, I can't just stop because I have so much to do. I have to do this work. And I want to go back to what I said earlier. the work will always be there. And so you have to make a decision. Am I going to work on work while I'm worn out and less effective? Or will I arrange myself so that I'm working on work while I have plenty of energy and I have clarity of mind? The idea of being done or being done with everything or not being done with everything feels wrong at first. And that's part of what makes this part so hard. This is the thing that every teacher I work with, almost every teacher, struggles with. I can't just walk away because I got to do it. If I don't do it, then all these things are going to happen. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I can just tell you that I did it and all those things didn't happen to me. And this is one of the moments where, a lot of teachers realize this is going to take more than just thinking differently. And that is exactly why I built the system around this, because this is where teachers get stuck. Shift number 3. Sorry about that. Let me get my stuff up here. Shift number 3 is you begin to recognize how much of your workload is not actually required. There's a lot of hidden or invisible things that we're doing. And that's the hard realization of a lot of people, because it's not about blaming yourself. It's about becoming more aware. There are things that you and I do right now that have taken on overtime and which caused us to have all kinds of turmoil in our life. But were they really required? You see, that's the question. Making hard decisions about what is actually required. And once you start to see clearly, you realize that you've been doing things that don't make any sense. They don't matter. We just do them for the sake of doing them. And most people can't see that. Most of us can't see. I couldn't see that. That's why I ended up in a coaching relationship for well over 3 years. Because I got myself into that point. Because I thought that I had to do everything. I thought that I had to start work at 6 a.m. and work and nearly until midnight every day of the week. And that's one of the things that I help walk teachers through inside the power of it, the power of enough. Because it's hard to identify when you're in the middle of it. As a matter of fact, you can't see it at all. Shift number 4 is you prepare for what happens internally when you stop. And we made a little bit of an allusion to this, because here's the thing that I can promise you. The moment that you start doing things differently, you're going to get pushback. Some of that pushback is going to be external. It's going to come from the people around you. But most of that pushback, it's going to come from you. It's going to come from the voice that keeps telling you that you got to keep going. The voice that says you haven't done enough. The voice that says you should do more. The voice that says everybody else is doing this. The voice that says this is just what it means to be a teacher. You see, this shift, preparing for what happens to you internally, is about helping you get ready for the moment that it happens, and so that you're not reacting to it when it shows up. Instead, you're ready. Shift number 5. You have to change how you define a successful day. Because if your definition of success does not have an endpoint, you will always feel unsuccessful. Success always, if success always means that everything is done, then success will always be out of reach. This shift changes that. It gives you a way to know that the end of the day has come, and that whatever it is that you have done, it is enough. It's the power of enough, the power of doing enough, and how it can transform your life as a teacher inside the class. And the power of enough helps guard our heart because everything that we do flows from our heart. If our heart is empty, we're empty. If our heart is bitter, we are bitter. If our heart is overworked, we're overworked. Now, here's what I want you to notice. Not a single one of these shifts are about working harder. Not one of them. Not one of them is about doing more. And none of them require you to become a different kind of teacher. But they are about operating differently inside the same reality that you're already in. They're about making different decisions, setting different boundaries, and protecting what matters the most. And when these shifts come together, something changes. Not all at once necessarily, and definitely not everything all at once, but something important changes. And here's what changes. You can actually be done for the day because you've done enough. It's the power of enough. So, with that being said, oh my gosh, look at this. The chat just took off while I was over here. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I went off. So, yes, Teacher Kelly, that is a lot of money. You're talking $48,000 a year for college and getting a $30,000 scholarship to play football. We always thought, we invested a lot in our kid because he wanted to go to college. He wanted to play football, so we invested in his football talent, thinking we would get one. We would get one of those quote unquote all expenses paid. Well, as it comes to find out, there's not a lot of all expense paid to go play football. Maybe there are some, but there wasn't for him. But getting $30,000 was pretty good. But it wasn't enough. I can tell you that. So maybe in 30 minutes early and only 30 minutes late or something like that. You know what? Here's what I think, Teach Cub. I think you're onto something, okay? Because it is really, really hard. It's really, really hard as a teacher to work your contract hours only. And I talk about working contract hours only. And I have, for the most part, successfully done that. There are days where I have to stay late. I am an athletic director as well as the dean of students, and that requires me to be on contract longer than what most people are. But on those days when I don't have to be on contract because I have to be at a game, I do not schedule myself beyond the contract hour, right? So it is very difficult. And so I always suggest it starting with 2 days out of the week. And I just pull these out of a hat, Tuesdays and Fridays. And here's the reason why. Because Mondays are always hectic. They're always tough. Friday, I don't know about you, but I'm looking to get home. I'm looking to get out of there. So Tuesday and Friday, I always suggest just work contract hours on those days only. Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, maybe you do come in 30 minutes early if you can. A lot of teachers, they've got daycare to go to. They got kids to take care of, and they can't do that. So if you have to, stay 30 or 45 minutes late on those days. But here's the key, is making a hard stop. It doesn't really matter how long you stay there. I mean, you shouldn't stay. I don't think you should stay, past 4 o'clock or anything like that, because you got to have a hard stop. And the hard stop is not just for the physical work of grading and emails and parents. It's for the mental stop as well. You got to be able to turn the clock off. You got to be able to turn the wheels off up here and just go home. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your family. Do not bring work home either physically or mentally, because when you do, your home, which is a sacred space, simply becomes a second office. That's part of what's destroying us as teachers, is we're never off work. Even when we're off, we bring it home, and now we have an office at home. And it doesn't matter. You can say, well, I'm sitting on the couch watching TV. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The brain is not getting out of fight or flight. And as a result, we're reacting. Everything's reacting. Deep South Texas, resource teacher Grades pre-K to 5. That is tough work right there, ladies and gentlemen. Pre-K to 5. Deep South Texas. Appreciate you jumping in. Thank you so much. All right, Sarah Ann. All right, right here. Look at what. I have been told to push through. That is the mantra that almost every single teacher says. I have been told to push through because that's what good teachers do. And as a matter of fact, in my catalog of videos on YouTube, and I'm going to try to pull it up over here on another screen while we're talking. I did a series on the unspoken rules of education. And one of the unspoken rules is that good teachers keep working no matter what. Good teachers keep working no matter what. That is an unspoken rule of education. You will not find that rule in your EDU manuals. You will not find that in your HR book. Your principal's not going to sit down and tell you about it or anything like that. It is just an unspoken rule. All right. I'm going to put it right down here in the chat. All right. Because I want you to go and look at it if y'all get a chance. All right. Right there. All right. It's in the chat. I want you to know, Sarah Ann, I guess sometimes in life, everybody has to push through, but to think that everything is always having to push through, I think is a dangerous concept. And ultimately it'll destroy your health. Teach Kelly, thank you. Great perspective. I do it most days, but just giving an example of what someone could implement. That's absolutely right. For him. Great question. How do I turn off the wheels mentally? All right. So that is a great question. Whenever I was in the height of burnout, my face was paralyzed. Right? I was in so much pain in my face. I could not blink this eye. I had to tape it shut just to go to work. And I was a varsity softball coach. I was the athletic director. I was the dean of students. And holy cow, I think I was running after school at the time too. Maybe I wasn't running it at that particular time. But I had a lot of work to do. And my point is that I'm just like everybody else. My brain was running 1,000 miles an hour. Whenever I got home, if I wasn't trying to figure out a problem that I was working on, if I wasn't, answering emails or looking at my phone with complaints that came in, then I was trying to figure out how to solve a problem, on and on and on. So how do you get the wheels to stop? And this is what happened. God in his grace. And God is so kind and is so good to us. And again, we're a faith forward organization. We're not trying to offend you. It's just who we are, right? We're not gonna make you believe anything or do anything. We just that's just who we are. God in his grace gave me a hobby. And that hobby was refurbishing furniture. I have never refurbished anything in my life. I have no artistic ability. I have no creative ability whatsoever. None. Zero. I cannot even organize things like on a desk. If I organize a desk, you'll have one thing over here, one thing over there, one thing over here, all over the place. So it's just not my gift. But I watched a couple of YouTube videos and I learned a little bit about refurbishing furniture. And so that's what I started doing. And in that hobby, one for him, I don't know if it's the hum of the sander or the time away or the fact that all of a sudden I had this hobby and all of a sudden it gave me a reason to up and leave work, to leave school. And somehow I was able to think with some clarity in my shop. I was able to get alone with my thoughts. Most importantly, I was able to get alone with Jesus, and he worked in my life as well through that hobby. And so I say all that to say this, that if you want to turn your thoughts off, then you may have to turn your thoughts onto something else, such as a hobby. Refurbishing furniture is a good one. It's probably not going to be yours, and it doesn't have to be. But find something to get your mind working elsewhere. Once again, I'm gonna put Power of Enough right down here in the text box. Um, this is probably the best product that I've ever had the privilege of creating, and I create these because I know that there are millions of teachers that struggle just like I did, and I continue to struggle. I am better and I'm healthy, but I continue to struggle because teaching is hard. It's always going to be hard, and it's always been hard. Sarah Ann, listen to this right here. This is the best. Loves to hike. I advocate for it. Okay, I live in Florida. We can't exactly hike mountains in Florida, but we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of state parks. Get outside. We love to kayak. Get on the river. Spend some time in the sunshine. Nothing like outdoor activities and being around people and laughing, right? You gotta have something other than just work. In particular, if you're a teacher, it's too much. There's too many, there's too many things being piled in on top of teachers today. You can't get all the work done. One for him. Hiking could be a good one too. It absolutely is. It 100%. Hey, man, in particular, you're in Colorado. Waterfalls. We do have some waterfalls here in Florida, believe it or not. In some areas, I guess, where the ocean used to be at some time or another. The cool thing about Florida is built on top of on top of an aquifer. You can't go anywhere in Florida and there's not water. Water is everywhere in Florida. And I will have to say, you can't go any place where there's not an alligator either. There's alligators everywhere. It's kind of like being in Colorado. There's probably bears everywhere out there. There's alligators here. They don't seem to bother anybody. So I just want to end up tonight and working out and YouTube are my hobbies. Now there's a good one. All right. Working out, that delivers a good amount of dopamine to the brain, which can help get out some frustrations. Hey, so yeah, one for him. I just happen to have it right here on my desk. Uh, Best read ever, Sacred Rest by Sandra Dalton Smith. It's a good read. It's a quick read. It's a fast read. So you can go into the description box and you can see the link for that down there. I don't know what it is. It's like it. I mean, it's not my book. She gets paid for it, but I don't know what it is. 11 or 12, $6 or $8, something like that. She discusses 7 different types of rest. All right. Let me just share with you a few things that might interest you as it relates to this 7 different types of rest. She talks about physical rest, mental rest, emotional rest, social rest, sensory rest, which is a must for teachers because we are on sensory overload. Those little guys, crazy, all that noise going on in the classroom. And then on top of it, as much as most of us are on our phone, creative rest, which teachers need because that's what we do. Teachers are the original content creators. Did anybody out there know that? We were the original influencers, not the people that we see on YouTube and TikTok. All right. And then give it a rest. Okay. So check it out. Sandra Dalton Smith down in the description box. You can grab it right there. Teacher Kelly, YouTube is, I have a complicated relationship with YouTube. First of all, I love YouTube. But it too seems to become a taskmaster because it's something that you always have to be working at it. And so I struggle with it. And that's why it was so important for me last week to take some time away. to get away from the Sunday Night Live and to get away from, I already had a video recorded, so all I had to do was do a little bit of editing. So it was really important for me to get away. And that's why, as we close tonight, think about that. What would it be like if we scheduled intentional time off and time away? Just sit down with our calendar and looked in it. One of the concepts that we've talked about. Hey, cluster coach, how are you doing? Good to see you. Everybody say hello to cluster coach. One of the things that we've talked about here previously is it's called mandatory recess, and we call it mandatory recess because nobody likes the idea of Sabbath, which is strange to me. I mean, how did it ever become that we don't like the idea of Sabbath, like taking a rest, periods of rest, periods of time, and yes, Sabbath does. Holy cow! Check that out. On a cruise. You're the third person that I've talked to in a week that's on a cruise. In fact, I've been having to deal with some things over at the VA because I'm a Gulf War veteran, and I got some complications. And the guy that does the work for me, I called him to give him an update, and he was on a cruise. So there's that. So nobody seems to like this word Sabbath because it sounds so religious. So I came up with the idea of mandatory recess. And what mandatory recess is, it's building in periods of time of rest and relaxation and joy into your life and into your schedule. And it's become my experience that if you don't schedule these things, they tend not to happen, right? And so think of it this way. Just left Miami, buddy. It was hot down there, I can tell you. That is so cool, man. I'm cluster coach. I believe, if I'm correct, cluster coach is from Chicago. So he has been in nearly the Arctic tundra for untelling how long. And now he's in Miami and he's heading down to the Caribbean. Or are you going to Mexico? Either one, you're going to have a good time. You're going to stay warm. So, you got to build in times of rest. And, one of the resources, and I'm going to bring it up here right quick. You can get it right here. It's free. It's 100% free. It's always free. It is the 5-minute reset. And I know 5 minutes does not change anything. It's not going to change the universe, but it's a 5-minute reset that you can do over and over and over. It's not a one-time thing. These guides are intended to be used over and over and over to build your own little reset. All right, that 5-minute reset throughout the day is extraordinarily important because when you're able to reset, what you're essentially doing is that you're telling your brain that you're okay, right? Because if your brain thinks that you're not okay, it goes into fight or flight and it gets stuck. It takes upwards of 6 weeks to get the brain out of the fight or flight mode. That's what happens. All right. And when you're in the fight or flight mode, it's like your body is prepared to fight a war. It's literally tense like this, except you don't notice it. You don't notice it. And you're not like, Mexico, Jamaica. Oh, my goodness gracious. Look at this. Look at this. Hey, by the way, has anybody been on spring? I would assume that you're on spring break right now, cluster coach. Anybody else been on spring break? I don't get spring break until like the third week of April. So I don't know what that's all about. I'm kind of glad because everybody comes to Florida for spring break except for the cluster coach. He's going on a cruise, which I'm super glad for you, man. So that's what happens when the brain gets in fight or flight. We're completely cinched up, but it's not, you don't notice it. But over time, that's what causes the body to hurt. It's when your muscles start aching. It's when you got headaches. You can't sleep very well at night. All of those things take place, And so this mandatory recess, starting with a 5-minute reset, on the daily, you can do it 2 or 3 times a day, by the way. Yeah, cluster coach is on spring break. That's cool. And then working into a 24-hour period of mandatory recess. And that 24-hour period is a mandatory recess from all things education, whether it's physically working on something or mentally thinking about it. And in that period of time, we're going to go and do things that bring us joy. All right. And yes, worship should be one of those things too. But a mandatory recess nor a Sabbath does not have to be on a Sunday. That is a misnomer. All right. The mandatory recess often comes for me, on Saturday evening until, sometime on Sunday, Saturday afternoon to Sunday afternoon. A lot of people decide that they want to go from 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. Friday to 6 p.m. Saturday because most of us aren't working past 6 p.m. anyway, right? So we're trying to get home. So that's a really good time to schedule things right there for a 24-hour period that bring you joy. Spending time with a family, working on a hobby, going somewhere, right? And then you work up to a week. I mean, we typically call that vacation, but a week of mandatory recess where you cast off all things educational, all things that are like responsibilities, like doing house chores and stuff like that, and you just simply rest, right? Those things go a long ways towards keeping not just our body and our body from breaking down, but to go a long ways towards keeping our mind from becoming overwhelmed. And that is a big deal. And that is the very thing that got me. And it took me almost 3 years to get out of that shape. And so now I help teachers just like you, teachers all over the world that struggle. That's what I love to do, is to help teachers. Somebody just went and got that. Hey, thank you. Whoever downloaded the power of enough. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. All righty. Well, we'll be back next Sunday. I believe Dr. Pender is going to be with us, so you guys will want to hang out and check in and see what's going on with her and get caught up. But until then, I want you to stay strong and keep teaching. And Cluster Coach, have a good time, man. Stay safe. Stay hydrated. Stay healthy. All those things. And I'll see y'all next week. I love you. Have a good night.